Can you believe there are now 10 Star Wars movies? Well, 11 if you count the Clone Wars. Nobody counts the Clone Wars. Solo, a Star Wars story, directed by Ron Howard, starring Alden Ehrenreich, Donald Glover and Emilia Clarke. Set in the time before the first Star Wars movie, Episode 4, A New Hope, if that's what you like to call it. And it's weird to think that now there are more movies set before the first Star Wars than there are set after Star Wars. And for the first time since 1977, we finally have an actor that actually wants to play Han Solo.
I got a really good feeling about this.
This film was originally directed by Lord and Miller, the people behind the Lego Movie, 21 Jump Street, 22 Jump Street, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. But then they got fired as it was alleged that their methods of directing were at odds with the vision of everyone at Disney and Lucasfilm. There were only 2 weeks left of filming when Ron Howard was brought in, and Ron Howard, you may have heard of him. He's made films like Apollo 13, Frost Nixon, The Da Vinci Code. Look, he's a more than competent director. But the rumours are that when Ron Howard came in, he basically started the movie again from scratch, ditching everything that was filmed with Lord and Miller beforehand and practically doubling the production budget in the process. And yet they still made it in time for more or less the film's original release date. And after all of that, was it worth it? That's an awkward question to answer. Because even without all of the production problems, this film isn't essential, it's not needed, and frankly, it wasn't wanted. That being said, it is an enjoyable adventure film. It's a reasonable script, solid story, and performances that are perfectly acceptable. Alden Ehrenreich as a young Han Solo is good. People complained about his voice, but here he's in his early 20s. In Star Wars Episode 4, he's in his late 30s. People's voices do change with age, so that didn't bother me. If anything, and I think Princess Leia would agree, he's a little bit too short to play a Han Solo.
Well, what do you know?
Donald Glover as Lando Calrissian is also very good. I mean, not perfect by any means. It's the scenes with him where I wonder if he would have worked best with the style of Lord and Miller, because they tend to take a more improvisational approach to filmmaking. But I could completely understand that the film might have felt a bit derailed with that style. But Lando Calrissian is charming, he's got heart, he's a little bit untrustworthy, so they've got the character spot on. But he's not quite the scene stealer that everyone expected. At least for me. Emilia Clarke as Qi'ra is fine. If anything, this could be the best movie performance I've seen from her to date. But sadly, she's in what I would consider the film's most embarrassing beat, where a scene completely fails the Bechdel test with a droid. Qi'ra and L3 are sitting together talking about whether the boys fancy them. It's a real step backwards from the direction that Star Wars has recently been going, especially as the droid L3 is constantly fighting for equal rights. So after a scene like that, a droid fighting for freedom and equality just comes off a tad hollow. Woody Harrelson as Tobias Beckett, and also his whole crew with Tandy Newton and Jon Favreau, they're great. They have some real standout sections. Tobias Beckett is somewhat of a mentor to Han Solo. Their relationship is all a bit predictable, but you get to have some fun with it. Paul Bettany is here too, with a more villainous turn than usual, and he looks great. He's got these like tiger stripe things on his face that become more prominent the angrier he gets. It's a nice stylistic touch. When it comes to characters, this film is good. At times, even great. But it's peppered with far too many moments that are frankly cringeworthy. Throughout the whole film, I was making faces like this, like this, like this. Now, I don't think the filmmakers intentionally set out to make a film that will make the audience roll their eyes, but it happens so often here, it has to be intentional. This film suffers from something that I like to call Wolverine's jacket. In X-Men Origins Wolverine, there's a scene that pointlessly explains how Wolverine gets his leather jacket, and no one cared. And that's how a lot of this film feels. Anytime it tries to remind you it's a Star Wars movie, it's when you start to care less. However, the moments with Chewbacca are just lovely. From the moment they meet, there's a great chemistry between them, and some of the moments hit you right in the feels. I think this is the most expressive and dynamic I've ever seen Chewbacca be in a movie, and it really saves the film from being a bit too by the numbers. And speaking of numbers, here's my rating for Solo: A Star Wars Story. I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. It could have very easily have been a 6, but the good bits are just too good for it to be a 6, so it's a 7. I might watch it on TV if it's on, I might stream it on a VOD site if I spot it, but this could actually be the first Star Wars movie I don't feel the need to go out and buy. It just doesn't feel vital to the mythology. Speaking of which, where in the mythology does this sit regarding Star Wars Rebels? Because Star Wars Rebels is canon, right? And if Star Wars Rebels is canon, then I'm calling shenanigans. But what did you think of Solo, A Star Wars Story? Comment with your thoughts below, and while you're down there, hit subscribe and like the video. Give this a share on Facebook and Twitter, and if you can, please donate to the coffee link also in the description below. Thanks for watching Matt Blair Reviews. I'll see you again next time.